I had a careers teacher when I was 16 that when I said to her, she asked me what I wanted to do when I left school, and I said I wanted to be an actor, and she said, no, you don't want to be an actor. She said, if you wanted to be an actor, you'd live, die and breathe the theatre. What else can you do?
Is it ever okay to say that you want world domination? Yes, it is. And today's guest, Judi Goddard from Power to Speak, with all of her details down below, go and check her out. She talks about how she wants her own version of world domination. Go get them. Today's is filled to the brim with absolute golden nuggets, including, and not exclusive to, Dame Judi Dench's, knickers, sex toys on stage, X-rated, and how her colourful past of treading the boards in the theatre has led her to this point right now where she helps other people get their voice out and gives them the power to speak. Before you go and watch the episode, please, we would love you forever if you wanted to give us a little thumbs up. And of course, if you love the episode, subscribe to our channel too. It's brilliant. See you on the other side. Right, Judi, thanks for being here. And as we start every single episode of the Digital Circus Live, we have one question to start with. What is it that you are trying to achieve?
World domination.
Oh, wow. I love a bit of world domination.
Do you actually want world domination? Seriously.
Have you not had that answer before?
Never.
Oh, good.
But I like the boldness of it.
Yeah, I thought I'd keep that moment just for you to kind of go, oh, is she being serious? Well,
the thing is that nice. I think if you are being serious, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Is that, they say set a goal so big it scares you. I wonder if more people would actually pick their version of world domination if they thought they wouldn't be laughed out of the pub, so to speak. I think more people would pick it than we realise.
Yeah, and I don't know whether I should be worried there that actually you didn't crack your faces didn't crack at all when I said that.
Wrong people. We're okay with goals that big. We're like, yeah, but the thing is, we live in a world we talk about this all the time in what we do with Yellow Tuxedo, but the second the corner shop has something online, they're a global brand, and everyone has something online. So if you're a global brand by the nature of being on the internet, world domination, global domination is a thing that you can do. So yeah, absolutely. If that's what you want, go and do it.
Absolutely. I'd not really considered that before, that obviously I am now a global brand. But before lockdown, and I'm sure it was the same for lots of people, even just to go national or even, to get outside of Hampshire would have been, domination of some kind. So now that the world is my oyster. So,
but what does domination look like to you?
Well, I suppose domination in my field, in how to get people confident and excited about talking to an audience. I'd like to be seen as the person that everyone kind of goes, oh, you need to speak to Judi. She's the world leader in public speaking and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'd maybe not world domination, but why not? Let's go for it.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm on board with this. So hold on. Right. So we need to delve into the life. Okay. That's the bit we want to know. We want to know, this is great. Would love to know more about global domination, world domination with Judi, Power to Speak. But what's got you here? Because I was doing a bit of stalking on your LinkedIn.
Like one does.
I think you call it due diligence, Emily. Stalking on LinkedIn. Yes. And that's it. And you spent 9 years with the Hampshire Cultural Trust, which goes back to kind of, early 2009, so that period. But I wanted to know what was happening before that. How did you get into this kind of this world? What got you here?
Well, that Hampshire Cultural Trust feels like just a drop in the ocean, actually. No, what's inside me, that is the teacher, that is the actor, that is the director, that is the public speaker, goes right the way back to childhood, to the playground of me making up stories and dragging all my friends in and directing them and then performing to the class on a Friday afternoon. And that was me. It's what I did. It's what I wanted to do. I had a careers teacher when I was 16 that when I said to her, she asked me what I wanted to do when I left school, and I said I wanted to be an actor, and she kind of went, and basically said, well, if you know, do you go to the theatre? And I said, well, I grew up on a council estate. Nothing wrong with that, but it wasn't part of my culture at that point. So I hadn't really been to a lot of theatre apart from pantomimes. I was at a school that was miles away from where I lived. So I couldn't go to the after school clubs because I couldn't get home. So when I sort of said this to her, I wasn't really that involved apart from the stuff that I was doing on my own. She said, no, you don't want to be an actor. She said, if you wanted to be an actor, you'd live, die and breathe the theatre. What else can you do? And I just went, well, I'm not bad at art. And that was it. I went off to art college, which was great. Ended up doing fashion, which I loved. Left there and went into the fashion business, which was horrible. Absolutely hated that. No creativity, cutthroat, just nastiness. So I left there after about 5 years of being...
I've seen 101 Dalmatians. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, a little bit like that. And from there, I had a friend that we'd both been through fashion college together, and she ended up not liking it either and ended up in theatre at the Royal Shakespeare Company at the Barbican in London, as it was then. And so she got me a job dressing actors. So my mid-20s by then, I started working in the theatre and just like, oh my God, this is me. This is where I live. This is my home. These are my people. And so I dressed people like Judi Dench and all sorts of, you know, so yes, I've seen Judi Dench in her knickers. Lovely, lovely woman. So yeah, there was lots of great times there, and I ended up getting into costume a little bit, but it was, and I've told this story many times, and it's my penny drop moment of dressing an actor called Toby Stevens, and he was on stage, and I was in the Pit Theatre, which is a tiny little theatre in the pit of the Barbican, and they called it the Pit because in London it was where they used to bury all of they literally had a pit and threw the bodies in to the play. That's what it was. That's where it was. That's where we were.
Wow.
They were performing, and so it was on three sides, like little studio theatre. And during one of the technical rehearsals, Toby opened this play with him and an actress on a mattress in the middle of this stage, underneath a sheet, shagging. And obviously they weren't doing it for real. They were acting. But the noises, the movements, the motions, everything going on underneath this sheet. And I was sat there in the auditorium going, oh my God, how embarrassing. How can they do that? And so he then came off afterwards. I mean, at that point, there was only the tech people in there. There wasn't an audience. And he came in for a quick change afterwards. And I said to him, how do you do that without just getting so embarrassed? And, you know, you've got to do that in front of an audience. And he said to me, if you don't believe what you're doing, then the audience won't believe it either. And that for me was like, ding, that's how you act.
Wow.
So all of that inhibition that I had, the lack of confidence that I had because I was too embarrassed or inhibited to stand up and be in front of an audience as somebody else. I realized in that moment that actually it's not me. I am being the person that I'm being asked to play. I'm being the character. I'm not playing the character. So if I don't do that truthfully and honestly, then the audience won't believe me. And that for me was just like a light bulb moment. And from that moment, I then went off to drama school. I have to say, in between that, I had breast cancer, which was also another kind of light bulb moment. Age 28, and I thought, okay, well, if I don't do this now, I'm going to regret it forever. So I went off to drama school at age 29, I think, in the end.
That's a great example of that. Life is too short. Actually, just grab it by the ball of the horns and go with it, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And that led me to everything that I'm doing now.
Would you do you think you would have done it if you hadn't have had the I'm going to say traumatic life experience? I hope that's okay. Do you think you would have done it if you hadn't have had that? I think maybe it's funny, isn't it? We have expectations thrust upon us by our family and our, you know, people around us. And I think
if it was just for me, if I was doing it just for me, like if Toby Stephens had said that, I had a penny drop moment and thought, yes, I need to be an actor. But I knew, aged 28, I was already married. Was I married at that point? I was about to get married. We'd already been trying for kids. I'd had a miscarriage. And then, so if I'd have been doing it just for me, with everybody kind of going, oh, well, we can't really afford it. You need to be at home. You're going through this, you're going through that. I don't think it would have been enough. I think the breast cancer was that moment that kind of went, no, I'm going to do it. This is my life. This is who I want to be. And because I'd been through it, everybody in my family and my friends and everybody that loved me said, yes, go for it. You need to do it. And so I then had that backing and the support that meant I could go for it, because I knew, being an actor, I was never going to earn money, not straight off the bat anyway. So yeah, I think the breast cancer really helped me along.
But isn't that a real shame of life, that it took that for people to go on, follow your dreams, do what you want to do? Your teacher at the age of 11 or 12 should have been the one to go, follow your dreams, do what you want to do. But they just don't do it. And it's changed. The world has changed a million times over. But why can't we? I want to be an actor. I want to be a dog trainer. Our daughter wants to be a pet shop owner. Follow your dreams, do whatever you want. She's only 9, nearly 10, but who are we to stand in the way of what they want? And I think actually going back to your childhood with your teacher then, they had no right to say that to you.
I think also, Jackie, that's why we don't laugh when you say world domination, because
who are we to say no?
Who are we to say no and say what the benchmark is for what you can and can't achieve? And, and that's the same with our kids. Like Ben he's about to turn 8 this July. And he's like, Dad, I want a Porsche. Okay. I'm like, all right, mate, you've got 10 years till you can legally drive. If you can't raise the money, make the money, we'll help you in 10 years to buy a Porsche. When you have 0 outgoings, something's not quite right, So absolutely, if you want a Porsche, let's work out how to get you a Porsche.
Visualize.
Well, you've got to do a bit, you've got to visualize and take action, but let's not get caught up on that.
So Jackie, coming back to your story, not our kids.
Not our kids. Is this podcast not about our kids?
So you went to drama school. What your career from drama school, did you get thrust into the acting world? What did that look like on a daily basis to you?
Well, it was the fringe, basically. So I came out of drama school, and a group of friends, and actually one of our teachers, who knows Laurie, bizarrely, she wrote us a play. So we took this play to Edinburgh. It was a 4-hander, and we went off to Edinburgh for the Edinburgh Fringe and spent 3 weeks up there, which was a bit of a baptism of fire. At 4:00 in the afternoon, every afternoon we had to set the set up, and then we'd perform for an hour and a half, and then we'd have to take the set down, put it away for the next people to come in. I did that, and then went off, and then you spend so much time just trying to find auditions, trying to be in people's plays for free. There was a thing called, I don't know if it was PCR or something. I can't remember the name of this newsletter thing that came out by post. Obviously, it was bits of paper back in those days, that had everything that was going on. People that were making student films, all of that sort of stuff. I did a couple of student films, short films. Again, the same tutor wrote us another play, a 2-hander that I did with a friend of mine in London. We did it at the end over a pub at the end of the King's Road. We did it again in Highbury in Islington. So there was a lot of that going on, and then a lot of just trying to find work. I did a production in the end in a pub in West London, which was the Revenger's Tragedy, which was one of those Jacobean things, which was this huge monologue my part had. But and I got an agent from that, actually. But this is when I realised that actually maybe acting wasn't necessarily where I should be. I was cast as this sort of evil stepmother in this Jacobean tragedy, which was a brilliant part, loved it. But the director, in his wisdom, decided at one point I should be dressed in a boiler suit and wearing a giant dildo. Just wonder whether I should do that.
So I'm just writing that
just
down.
did.
Dildo said on the Digital Circus Live
Use
podcast.
that for the short.
That's a short right there. Dildo, how far in? 16
So I'd have
minutes,
to at one point appear, and I'd have to sit in the wings waiting to come on for my bit, and I'd just sort of sit cross-legged in the wings, just playing with this thing, and then just appear on stage. It was just like. But this is
well. The dildo appeared on stage before you, surely, because it was yes,
it did. I'd forgotten. Kind of put that to the back of my memory, actually. But that did make me think that actually, as an actor, you are at the whim of your director, you know. And actually, I like to have a little bit more control than that. So that's when I think I decided. And then I got an agent, and an agent sent me off to an audition with quite an impresario, let's say, a West End impresario whose name escapes me at this point, but he was quite famous back in the 70s or 80s back then, but obviously this was a bit later than that. But he wanted to send me off to the north of England. I was living in London. He wanted to send me off to up north somewhere to half be in a play and half not be in a play. I was going to be stage managing whilst understudying, and it meant being away from home for months. And I just slowly began to realise that actually to be a jobbing actor is not very glamorous, and it's probably, not much fun. And at that point, somebody offered me some teaching work. And I kind of got into teaching as a way of subsidising, going for the auditions and doing that kind of stuff. I was doing extra work as well. I did some filmy bits. So it was all bitty. It was all bits and pieces, but there was nothing really that was grabbing me about it. So I ended up falling into teaching, really.
Sorry, I really didn't want to interrupt, but I didn't want to move on to the next part because I had a question about the acting part still, if that's all right. So you've trained to be an actor, you want to be an actor, fantastic, and you are doing acting. When you're doing acting in the things you were telling us you were doing with the dildo, etc., are you
the things you were doing with the dildo? Quote there.
Yeah, sorry. Are you waiting to be found, or because also we've got to look at this is pre-internet years. It's very, very different, right? So are you waiting to be discovered, or are you actually, no, I'm an actor. I'm being in these little plays at the in London and everything else, and that was being an actor, and then you went, that's not for me. I'm just kind of, I don't know anything about it, I'm just curious are you waiting for a big break, or are you happy with what you're doing?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think there was part of me that had a hell of a lot of imposter syndrome. I didn't really feel like I was qualified or good enough or anything like that, which was one of the reasons I think it took me so long to end up going to drama school anyway. But I think what I was doing in the Fringe was trying to earn my rights to be an actor. So I was quite happy to be doing that, but with a husband at home kind of going, well, you're not actually, okay, we're not really earning any money, are you? That kind of, so it was difficult. I was hoping to be discovered, but I wasn't really in the right places. In the beginning, all you want as an actor is to get an agent, because once you've got an agent, then they will put you forward for jobs. And that's when you start going for the sort of the bigger auditions, the jobs that are going to pay.
Yeah.
It just so happened that the agent I ended up with was useless, so that didn't help my cause. So that didn't help. But I suppose I'd love to have been discovered, but at that point I don't think that's what I was thinking about. I was just thinking about getting some experience, getting on with a decent agent, and then getting the work from there.
So
cool.
What made you you never stop, you're always going to be an actress, but what made you stop that mainstream career in acting?
I think it was I had an experience with my agent who sent me off for a job, and when I didn't realise that the job was going to it was the northern job, actually. It was to go up north, and they wanted me. This was the Thursday. They wanted me to leave on the Sunday. But I'd already accepted a costume job in Aldborough in Suffolk, and it was quite a nice costume supervising or whatever. And so I'd already accepted that. And I think I'm just too honest. I'd accepted this job. The people were relying on me to go off to Aldborough. They'd planned, it was all there in writing. I'd signed the contract. So I couldn't just say, no, I can't do that job because I've got this job now and I've got to start on Sunday. So I basically said to my agent, I can't do it. And he just went crazy. And I thought, oh, that's not very nice. That's not the way I like to work. I'm being honest here. I'm saying, I'm not going to let these people down to go off and do this job. So that it just little by little, I began to realize that actually, maybe it wasn't the job for me. I loved the creativity of it. I loved being an actor. And I loved the collaboration of bringing stuff together. And actually, when you're a jobbing actor, you don't always get that opportunity. And especially if you're on film work, you'll be brought in for a day. You don't really know the people you're acting with, and then you're gone. So it's not that collaborative thing, that sort of creative thing that I was expecting it to be.
Get that. So fast forward a few years, you have a daughter?
I do.
And is she anything like you? Is she in the acting field, or is she very outgoing like yourself?
Yes, and well, yes-ish. I mean, she gets told that she looks like me all the time. She must get so fed up with it. I don't mind because I'm gorgeous. So she looks very much like me, and she's very creative. I mean, probably more so than me. So she started writing stories as soon as she could hold a pencil. She started drawing as soon as she could hold a pencil. She's only 20. So she is now at uni, just going into her third year in September, doing creative writing. In lockdown, she started making songs. So she writes songs and records songs. She's put some stuff on Spotify. And yeah, she's a fabulous writer, an amazing writer. And her songs and her lyrics, I know I'm slightly biased, I think are amazing. So I'm just waiting for her to go out and make her fortune and then keep me in the style I've become accustomed to.
Well, I think we're like that with our kids, Jackie. We're like, we could be a lost cause, but they've got time. They've got time.
Absolutely.
With yourself as a creative, though, do you ever worry for her going into a creative industry potential career path?
No. And I think that comes from my own upbringing. And I have to say, I don't know why. Everything that I'm saying sounds like, I came from a very conservative background. My dad's a stuntman, from the age of...
It's only taken 25 minutes. We got there.
So, but
I'd forgotten, actually. I was listening to your story.
But he wasn't in work all of the time. He got to a certain point. It probably took him a good 10 years before he was working constantly and was doing, amazing work. So there was a little bit of me, I think, that he was also very conservative, though, in his own ways. He wanted me to get married and they're from a different era, really. It was... he was happy for me to do what I wanted to do, but I always kind of felt he'd be happy if I was, a secretary or doing something slightly less precarious. He was always encouraging. When I said I wanted to be an actor, but by the time I was sort of 16 and at that point, he was off working. I hardly ever saw him. So it was my mum was at home looking after me and my sister, and she was a housewife and a mother and was quite happy for us to do whatever we wanted to do. But there was never really that push to be creative. Whereas now with Isabella, I kind of go, no, just go for it. Because I didn't go for it in the way that I felt like when I look back that I should have done. I met my husband when I was 21 and we were together until unfortunately he died a few years, like 5 years ago. So all of that time we were together. We were a couple, and you'll know this. You're working for each other, and you're working for your family, and all of those things. It's only been, the last sort of 5 years that I've been able to really reflect and kind of go, okay, well, this is now my life. This is now me, and I have all of the opportunities that I want to create for myself. So I can now look at Isabella and say, this is what I wish I'd been doing when I was your age. And so I don't want to put any of those barriers in her way. I want her to just go for it, and for her to know that if it all falls flat on its face, which it will several times before, you know, she makes a go of it, as happens in everybody's life. You know, we learn from those failures. As long as she knows that I'm here for her, I'm happy for her to do whatever it is that she wants to do. In fact, I would be devastated if she wanted to be a teacher. You know, or she wanted to be a doctor or a solicitor. It'd be like, oh, really? You know, go out and do something. She's been given gifts, and she needs to go out and use them.
Exploit them to the
we're not too dissimilar. So hold on, I've got a question about being creative that I don't want to forget. But I'm kind of like the same. I'm like, kids, if you want to get a job, go and become like a fighter pilot, you know, or a helicopter pilot or something like that. You know, if you desire to be employed, that's fine, but no issues. But kind of make it worthwhile, you know, do something fun. Right, question on being creative. So we've had this conversation off of this before about like creativity being a bit of a scale and everyone's on it. But if we take a creative kind of work as what I'm talking about here, do you think, and talking about you and your daughter there and everything else, do you think it's a better time or an easier time, or insert whatever word you want, to be a creative in 2023 than perhaps 10, 20, 30 years ago? Do you think it's easier, simpler, better, whatever your thoughts are?
I think it's easier. I don't know if it's simpler, but I think it's definitely easier. I mean, when I was at school, I was at a grammar school in the 80s. And drama wasn't even on the curriculum, and it wasn't an option. So I did art when I was at school, and I, did the whole O-level thing. But yeah, the drama wasn't an option. Whereas now, although having said that, they seem to have taken all the creativity out of schools, which, don't get me started. So I think it's easier in that creatives are more accepted now somehow. The creative industries are like bringing so much money into the country. I can't even remember what the statistics are. Christoph would know that 10% of...
I had Christoph in my head, yeah.
of the GDP.
Christoph, comment please, let us know.
Yes. So the creative industries are a huge part of our, the country's economics. So it shouldn't be discouraged at all. And I think people are coming to realize that actually being creative isn't just knowing how to paint and how to draw or how to play an instrument. It's about how you use your ideas and your how you use your brain and your thoughts to create and innovate. And it's all of those things. We are all creating all of the time. We create businesses, we create families, we create a life. We are creative beings. And the sooner that we kind of really embrace that and stop going, oh, I'm not creative because I can't draw a horse, then, we need to get over that, I think, and just realize that we are all creative.
We totally agree, and I've said this 1,000 times before, but Steen Stone's Double Rock, if we all know him. Double Rock. He, I remember he did a talk at the Digital Circus Live on AI, and sort of, I can't remember whether he exactly said or alluded to the fact that now with AI, it was unleashing his creativity. And that was a bit of a creative epiphany moment for me, kind of realizing that actually, yeah, everyone is creative. They just got to find out what their output is. Yeah. So, yes.
So moving back to what you're creating. So you have created a business, and that's been within the last 5 years. Tell us, what moved you to start Power to Speak? What was that driver? And I appreciate, obviously with the loss of your husband and other life things going on, what was that little thing that switched in your brain to go, do you know what?
Yeah, from actor to teacher to business owner. Yeah.
Yeah. What was that switch for you?
Well, I think it was lockdown. I think it literally came from having the time to step off the hamster wheel and just kind of go, do I want to, when all this is over, do I want to go back to that? Do I want to go back to being the freelancer? I'd worked part-time for all of those years at Hampshire Cultural Trust, whilst teaching drama to kids and adults. I'd kind of stopped teaching kids once I, got fed up with trying to wrangle 10-year-olds on a Saturday morning. It's like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. So I'd stopped teaching kids. I'd come, I just didn't want to go back. I wanted to move forward. I thought, right, if this has been given me and the rest of the world, I know it was awful for many, many people, but actually for me, it just gave me time to think what it is that I want to do. Where am I going? I'm not a spring chicken anymore, but I still have lots of life left in me, and I don't want to waste it. I've got, where am I going? What am I doing? And so I think the podcast might have been the first thing. Was just starting the podcast out of boredom and talking about creativity. That was the other thing, was that in lockdown, being in networking spaces and in rooms with people, I mean, even before lockdown, and talking to people about what I did and nobody really understanding what I did. And actually, to be fair, what I was doing back then was more arts project based. I was doing sort of arts project managing really for Hampshire Cultural Trust. And that's what I wanted my business to be when I started my business in 2018 as Atticus Arts. But people didn't understand it. They didn't get it. And so the podcast really was to talk to people about creativity and how they used theirs for their own well-being, especially in lockdown. What was stopping them, what was keeping them sane. And 99.9% of the time, it was something creative. Whether that was baking, making banana bread, there was something. So it was lovely to sort of start the podcast and really start talking to people about that. And then in that sort of that winter of 2020 into 2021, I did a coaching course online. And I think I said this actually, Alan, literally this week to you on Monday. I was in a breakout room with two other women from, the people were from all over the world on this coaching course. And the reason we were put in this breakout room was to explain to people what we did and see if they could understand and tell us back to us what it was that we did. And at that point, I had moved into the public speaking kind of sector, or that was what I was thinking I would coach around, was public speaking. So I explained to them what I did, maybe a bit about the acting training and how I was using that to help people speak to their audiences, get them excited, that kind of thing. And I said, okay, what is it that you think I do? And one woman said, you help people market themselves effectively, which I hadn't even thought of the fact that that's what I was doing. I was actually enabling people to stand up and promote themselves. And the other woman said, you help people show up powerfully in the world. And I thought, well, I've literally been talking for 2 minutes, told you what I do. And I thought if she got that from what I said, that's the benefit I could bring to people, that I could actually help them show up powerfully. And that's where the name Power to Speak came from, because I really thought that's it. That's what I need to be doing. And it was in that moment I thought, this is a business. This is something that I want to take forward, that I really want to work with, that I want to grow. So I don't want to use my name, because I want to be able to have other people come in, for me to teach other people how to coach in my way. Because I think there's something different in the way that I help people to step in front of audiences and get excited. And so I'd like to sort of build Power to Speak as a business, whether it's got a little bit of an open mic kind of side to it, a bit like Speaker Club, whether there's the podcasting, it's kind of bringing it all in-house. So there's a little bit of everything in there, but to really grow it as to world domination, obviously.
Well,
I love that. And it's also,
what a full circle.
It is a full circle, but also just touching back on what you said about when you didn't enjoy your acting, when you were basically living someone else's viewpoint via the director and the production team in that way, and you were living out someone else's, big picture. Actually, in Power to Speak, you are helping people have their deliver their own big picture in a way that is really powerful, and really, it's incredible what you do. So, That's been a roller coaster of a half an hour. So we have just one more question.
I have to say, I'm sorry, I know we're wrapping up. I was on that roller coaster. I was going around the world because we're talking about global brands and dominant. I was going up and down. I was like, wow. So yeah, thank you.
But I love that because I can see global domination on your own terms.
So do we need explosions?
Come on then.
Say global domination again.
Global domination.
Right, sorry.
If you could go back to your younger self, insert whatever age that looks like to you, and put your arm around your shoulder and go, Jackie.
Oh, thanks, darling.
Sorry, darling. Just one thing that you can say when you are looking back on your life later. What would that thing be to your younger self? What would you say to that person?
Just do it.
And you can take your time. It's fine.
Well, I was going to insert another word in there, but I won't. Yeah, just do it. Just don't be afraid. There is no failure. There is only feedback. Show up as yourself. Be authentic, and don't try to be who you think other people want you to be. Be who you want to be.
Amazing. I love that. I think on that note, be who you want to be. It's going to be my mantra for the rest. Put that on the show notes, Alan. Be who you want to be.
Have we got time for a very quick story?
Go.
Be who you want to be is a very powerful thing. Absolutely blimmin' love it. Thank you. Ricky Locke, friend of the show, he turned up once and made us all write name badges and put them on. And he said, write something like "I am awesome" on it. And that's what we wrote about. And Lydia Rose, our 8-year-old at the time, was with us. And she loved this name badge thing. So yeah, be who you want to be. And if you're not quite sure what it is or how to live it, write it on a name badge and wear it, because then you will be that thing that day.
And that's what people will read.
Yeah, that's what people will read as well. Oh, I like that, Emily.
Oh,
right.
Not my first rodeo. Jackie, thank you so very, very, very much for giving your time today. It's been fascinating to hear your incredible story about your life.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you everyone for listening today, and we will see you on another episode of the Digital Circus Live.